we've explored the development of the phoenix legend from ancient Egypt via the Greek historian Herodotus, the Roman historian Tacitus, and the two Christian writers Clement I and Tertullian, as well as the classical writer Pseudo-Lactantius. We now must move from classical antiquity into the Middle Ages and take a look at the Christian writer Isidore and the development of the bestiaries, which will give us a better idea of where the artistic image in our stained glass window came from. We will also need to take a look at modern heraldry, which probably contributed to the artistic style of our stained glass window. To meet Isidore of Seville, we must travel yet again across the Mediterranean Sea, further west of Rome to Spain. Isidore lived in the 500s to 600s AD, serving as a bishop of the Diocese of Seville in the region that became Andalusia. He was an influential author in the Middle Ages, often quoted as an authority by Thomas Aquinas. He describes the phoenix in the book Etymologies, a sort of encyclopedia, putting the phoenix into a section on various animals and birds.
The phoenix is the bird of Arabia, so called because it has the color red, phoenicaiam, or because it is singular and unique in the whole world, since the Arabs use the word phoenix to mean singular. This bird, living more than 500 years, when it sees that it has grown old, collects twigs of spices and builds a funeral pyre for itself. Then, turning towards the rays of the sun, it fans its own voluntary fire with the flapping of its wings, and so it rises again from its own ashes.
Isidore has no theological agenda, nor is he a poet. He is just describing what he thinks is a real animal, alongside of other animals in the natural world, like a zoologist, for the sake of preserving scientific knowledge. He has inherited Tertullian's view that the young phoenix is the same being as the old one, not an offspring. Like Tacitus, he notes that the bird recognizes its old age, and like Lactantius, he explains that the phoenix builds its own funeral fire, somehow using solar radiation to ignite the twigs it has collected. Unlike Lactantius, Isidore thinks that the fire itself ends the life of the bird. Here we have a notion that is closer to our stained glass window, with its depiction of a bird in a nest of flames that could be either dying or rising to new life. These four writers, Clement, Tertullian, Lactantius, and Isidore, inherited, handed on, and developed the idea of the phoenix and its meaning for Christian faith. We do not know how they received their information, from the classical authors, or from each other, or from a body of oral tradition, but it is reasonable to infer that they are witnesses to a shared idea, passed on through generations, a tradition that grew like a vine, as it was transmitted from generation to generation of writers, theologians, philosophers, and artists. There are many other authors from antiquity and the Middle Ages who write about the phoenix, but to examine them all would make this talk too long, and these four, fathers of the Church, are among the more highly regarded in Catholic tradition. We have seen how the idea of the phoenix sprang from the classical Egyptian, Greek, and Roman worlds, and was developed by Christian writers. But where did the specific style of picture that is found in our window come from? It does not resemble any of the ancient phoenix artworks identified by Joseph Nigg, the Egyptian Bennu, which may or may not be connected to the ideas of Greek and Roman writers, and the Roman depiction, found on imperial coins and a rare floor mosaic. These birds are long-legged and graceful, more like herons than eagles, with no flames. So how did we get from these to our window? The answer lies partly in medieval bestiaries. Bestiaries were books that catalogued animals, natural and mythical, kind of like Isidore's encyclopedia, but with religious lessons and with magnificent illustrations, hand-drawn, painted, and sometimes illuminated with gold. The original bestiary is a Christian text called the Physiologus, or the Naturalist, probably first written in Greek in the 3rd or 4th century, possibly in Alexandria, Egypt, but passed on in copies and translations throughout medieval Europe. Many medieval bestiaries were copies of this text, with additions from other sources. The bestiaries show a keen interest in the natural world and the life forms around us. In this illustration, from the Aberdeen Bestiary in Scotland, we see Adam naming the animals, a scene from Genesis 2 in the Bible. The animals are grouped according to rudimentary zoological similarities: big cats in the upper right, deer and horses below them, horned and hoofed mammals below those. Pigs are in their own category. Rabbits are grouped with domestic cats on the lower left, with the similarity of their postures emphasized. Medieval philosophers viewed the natural world with wonder and with a religious sense. Every created being expresses the wisdom and goodness of God in some unique way. In the Physiologus and the Bestiaries, the phoenix clearly becomes a Christ symbol, because of its power to lay down its own life and take it up again, as Jesus says of himself in the Gospel of John. Medieval bestiaries also included illustrations that look more like our window: an eagle-like bird picking the spices to make its nest, then immolating itself in the flames. Sometimes it is shown lying down in the fire as if already dead. Sometimes it is immersed in the nest, as if in a baptismal font. Sometimes it is heroically posed, wings spread amid the flames, sternly enduring its passion. Sometimes it looks as though the bird could be either dying or rising again from the fire. This illustration from the Aberdeen Bestiary comes close to the artwork in our window. His expression is sad yet fierce, his head turned to his left, his broad wings lifted as if ready for flight. The bestiaries influenced depictions of animals in other forms of medieval Christian art, including church sculpture and stained glass. This brings us closer than ever to fully understanding the origins and meaning of our stained glass window. But there is one more step to take. Although the form of this phoenix from the Aberdeen Bestiary clearly resembles our bird, we can still see a difference in artistic style between the delicate lines of 13th century illumination and the bold strokes of our 20th century glass. The bridge over this difference may be modern heraldry. Heraldry, in the widest sense, is the use of certain symbols and colors to represent people, families, or institutions. The practice began in medieval warfare, when bold designs on shields and banners identified friend from enemy in battle. But it expanded beyond the military to civilian leaders and families, who established their own personal heraldic symbols. There are rules to the system, however. People can't just choose whatever symbols they want, and not just anyone can have a crest or emblem or coat of arms. According to Joseph Nigg, Queen Elizabeth I of England was among the first to use the phoenix as her own personal badge, representing her uniqueness. In this portrait of her from the 1500s, we can see the closer resemblance between the style of the phoenix drawing and our window. The bird looks even more like an eagle. Feathers are clearly drawn and stand up along the back of its neck. The flames are contained in a small patch just underneath. Later, companies began adopting such symbols as corporate logos, such as this German printer's logo from the 1700s, which features a phoenix. In the late 1800s, right around the time St. Joseph's Parish was founded, this German atlas of heraldry depicted the phoenix in a design very similar to our window. An eagle-like bird faces front, wings spread but not outstretched, with a nest of branches and flames just underneath. Our stained glass windows were crafted in 1919, just 20 years after the publication of this atlas, by the Francis Xavier Kettler Studios in Munich, Germany. I can only speculate, but it seems probable that the German artisans in this studio 100 years ago may have been influenced by heraldic phoenix designs being used in their own time and place, as well as by the older medieval patterns. Since the late 1800s, the phoenix has become a popular symbol of resilience in the face of struggle. The Archdiocese of Chicago uses the heraldic phoenix in its crest to represent the city's recovery from the devastating fire of 1871. This coat of arms represents the USS New York, a ship of the Navy whose bow is constructed partially out of steel from the wreckage of the Twin Towers after 9/11, symbolizing the city's ability and our nation's ability to rise up again after disaster. We can now see the connection between this whole long history of the Phoenix legend and our stained glass window. From Herodotus in Egypt, through the historians, poets, and theologians of antiquity, through medieval literature and art, as well as modern heraldry, to the picture in our window. We should conclude with a thank you to author Joseph Nigg, whose book, The Phoenix, has been a guide to uncovering many of these sources.